Travis Wayne Goodsall. I finished the Handmaid's Tale Season 1 last night. And I saw the episode where the scriptwriter attempted to show some of the consequences of the failed system by Christians to create a Zion America, in which even though they were enforcing their laws upon the people and punishing them for disobedience, they themselves were caught up wanting to continue the heathen practices for which they are punishing others for, and created underground movements as a release from the strictness that they themselves created. And even still, we are seeing the setup of the main religious creator having spies sent among his own leadership to keep them in line. And so it's not the full consequences. The scriptwriter is not able to see the bigger picture of the damage that would be caused under the scenario that the scriptwriter created. But the scriptwriter is aware of the different types of results from Christianity being implemented in America. And as I saw Canada becoming a safe haven for those who escape, I saw the potential of what may happen here in America as Zion providing people a safe haven. But consequences. There will be no Zion if there is no fall of the great and abominable church. And if there is no fall, there will be no transfer of authority. And if there is no transfer of authority, there can be no exodus to Zion. And thus, if there is no exodus to Zion, there will be no Zion. Mormons don't understand this. In Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28, now we will compare the word unto a seed. And so I will put word in place of seed from here on out. Now if you give place that a word may be planted in your heart, behold, if it be a true word or a good word, if you do not cast it out by your unbelief, that you will resist the Spirit of the Lord, behold, it will begin to swell within your breasts. And when you feel these swelling motions, you will begin to say within yourselves, it must needs be that this is a good word, or that the word is good. For it beginneth to enlarge my soul, yea, it beginneth to enlighten my understanding, yea, it beginneth to be delicious to me. Now behold, would not this increase your faith? I say unto you, yea. Nevertheless, it hath not grown up to a perfect knowledge. But behold, as the word swelleth, and sprouteth, and beginneth to grow, then you must needs say that the word is good. For behold, it swelleth, and sprouteth, and beginneth to grow. And now, behold, will not this strengthen your faith? Yea, it will strengthen your faith, for ye will say, I know that this is a good word, for it beginneth to sprouteth, and beginneth to grow. You need to understand that a seed gets planted in the ground, and you cannot see it. And so when it sprouts, this is when you actually physically witness that it is growing. Now, behold, are you sure that this is a good word? I say unto you, yea, for every word bringeth forth unto its own likeness. I have witnessed too many Mormons who want to show if a certain word is true by doing something else unrelated to the word. You know, it's like wanting to find out if the word of wisdom is true, and so you then help your neighbor walk across the street. You know, go vacuum your neighbor's home, mow their lawn, give out Book of Mormons. That's not going to produce the results of the word of wisdom. If you need to find out if the word of wisdom is true, you need to follow the word of wisdom. Don't get drunk. Don't do drugs. And run and get some exercise. You did know that was in there. That's what you need to do. That is how the word produces after its likeness. Consequences. That's why I used the example in the beginning. They believe the word of the Bible as they interpreted it upon the Society for the Handmaids. And as a result, there were people who could not follow the law and created an underground movement. And so you're not going to produce the full results of what society you create if you're going to create your own underground movement for you to live in. Because you don't believe that what you've done was right, at least for you. But that's the whole problem. Anyway, moving on. Therefore, if a word groweth, it is good. But if it groweth not, behold, it is not good. Therefore, it is cast away. And so, the word of get a spiritual witness feeling and stop right there. It never grows and produces the fruit. You must dismiss that word. Talking to you, Mormons. You misinterpreted Moroni chapter 10. Manifest the truth as producing the results. It is not the spiritual witness feeling that you get. Because I already read to you what the spiritual witness feeling is. Notice we're still going on to produce the fruit and the results of the word. It was right here in the Book of Mormon, right here in the middle, and you got deceived. And now, behold, because you have tried the experiment, seed-producing fruit is the science of agronomy. This process is the scientific process. Because in the scientific process, you have to use logical Socratic methodology, thus true words, to run your test. If you use fallacy words, you will not produce the desired results. Exactly what Alma 32 here is telling you. And so, when you put a whole bunch of known results of the word, and you put them in a premises that would deductively lead to the conclusion, you run the test, and this should be the results. If it fails, and you don't produce the word into a tree, you know that your theory is wrong. You gotta scrap it. Find something else. This is what the Society and the Handmaid's Tale are refusing to do. They've run America into the ground. And they're blaming others for what they themselves caused. And it's just ripping my heart apart, dear God. They tried to get the handmaids to be the ones who inflict the punishment on others who violate their laws in society. And when it came to having to stone one of their own handmaids who snapped and broke mentally, they refused to do it. And so, yeah, if you haven't seen the show, spoiler alert, but the main handmaid was raped to become pregnant as a handmaid, and the one handmaid leader, I can't remember the terms for all of the titles, but she had rescued the baby from the one handmaid who snapped and then tried to commit suicide. And so she was then asked to participate in the stoning by all handmaids of the woman who survived the suicide. And they refused, and she's pregnant, and they were going to murder her for punishment for not murdering the other handmaid. See, these are the kinds of things that exposes the word as being faulty. And so the scriptwriter was brilliant in casting it that way. And so, yes, the handmaid rebellion, if they didn't want us to rebel, they shouldn't have given us uniforms. Let's see. Planted the word, swelleth and sprouteth and beginneth to grow. You must needs know that the word is good. And now behold, is your knowledge perfect? Yea, your knowledge is perfect in that word. Interesting that the added corruption definition to the Hebrew word for word, dabar, is also incorrectly translated as thing. So we'll go to Hebrews chapter 11, the incorrect translation of verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Nobody else can see your ideas. You have to follow the pattern of the idea to make it reality so that other people can see the work, the results of the word. And your faith is dormant. It sprouted. That one word sprouted. You know it's good. For you to keep second guessing yourself on the word, doubting it as you've seen it sprout, it means you're now an unbeliever of what you have produced. You are denying reality. Dormant can be understood if you don't know the word about volcanoes. Volcanoes will occasionally blow. We've got some volcanoes that have blown recently. And when they're finished blowing, they go dormant, hibernate until the next blowing. That's what dormant is. And so every single word needs to be tested. And there are people who have run the test prior to us. Like I said, logical Socratic methodology for logic. Logic has been established as eternal laws of truth concerning words and obtaining knowledge. To use fallacy argument when fallacies have already been established as eternal falsehoods either makes you very stupid or, because you know of them and are still using them in your career field, religion, psychology, and any other field that psychology permeates, makes you pure evil. Thus, Handmaid's Tale. They are witnesses to the consequences, but they deny that it's their fault. They deny that they are guilty of murder, rape, theft. And they say that it's for the better good. No. Anyway, moving on. And this because you know. For ye know that the word has swelled your souls, and ye also know that it hath sprouted up, that your understanding doth begin to be enlightened, and your mind doth begin to expand. Oh, then is this not real? I say unto you, yea, because it is light. Whatsoever is light is good, because it is discernible, physical, real, tangible, the five senses, not spiritual witness feelings. Therefore you must know that it is good. And now behold, after you have tasted this light, is your knowledge perfect? Behold, I say unto you, no. You haven't produced the fruit. Neither must ye lay aside your faith. It's just dormant. For ye have only exercised your faith to plant the word, to test the word, that you might try the experiment to know if the word was good. But behold, as the tree beginneth to grow, you will say, let us nourish it with great care, that it may get root, that it may grow up and bring forth consequences, the results, the finished work. Now behold, if you nourish it with much care, it will get root, and it will grow up and bring the consequences. Too many evil people do things according to what they believe in, and, like the show, ignore the consequences or complain when they're the victims of their own results. They tend out to lash on other people rather than acknowledging that they were the dumb ones who didn't run the test properly. Okay, so Mormons send out missionaries, and I'm seeing that Heretic is supposed to be coming out on DVD, and yet nobody is making it available on DVD yet. I'm not happy. You can't give me the word of the DVD release date and not provide us with a pre-order option. I want that movie. And so missionaries go and talk to people who are not Mormon and give them the Book of Mormon, which contains words and tell them to read the Book of Mormon. And yeah, you kind of sabotage other people by telling them to only stop after they get the right feeling that it's true, rather than producing the results of the word. Because Exfo Nevermos have actually run the test and have found that the Book of Mormon can't be true as literal history. So again, running the scientific test of agronomy on the words of the Book of Mormon in accordance with Alma chapter 32, starting in verse 28, which is a true word because it's based on the scientific process for obtaining truth, knowledge. And so that is true in the Book of Mormon, but not the Book of Mormon as literal history. Do you see the difference? Do you see how running the test on the Book of Mormon to only get a feeling is not true either? You have to cast it out. You can't keep using that. Because what happens with spiritual witness feelings is that you become an idol worshiper. You are turning the Book of Mormon into an idol god, and that you must worship it by reading to get the feeling, to possess you with that feeling in order to live your life. And then as it mimics chemical dependencies, when you don't read your Book of Mormon in a certain duration of time, you feel like you're losing the feelings about the truth of the Book of Mormon. And so then you go back and you get your fix of the feelings of the Book of Mormon again. Same thing with church attendance, temple attendance, listening to conference, etc. Listening to hymns. You are turning them into idol gods. You have become an idol worshiper. You have not run the test on the Word. This is why spiritual witness feelings are so dangerous. And so this is why you see Mormons who think that they can have interior design of their homes to feel the Spirit, rather than the interior design of your homes based upon what you like. But others think that you have to have it a certain way to conform and comply. And that's also in the show. Not to the extreme as it should have been, because it's Christian undertones. I would have expected to see more crosses and Jesus statues and such like that permeating the people's homes. But they're trying to tone it down away from the extremism of Christianity, even though it's obvious it's Christians. And so, yeah, for Mormon homes, as my bishop in West Valley City was told by the Strengthening Church Members Committee to kick me out of the church because of the video that I posted on this channel about Adam fell, that man might be, the Word, which I demonstrated the test for as true. I was visited by the ward mission leader and the second counselor, I think it was the second counselor, not the first counselor, in the stake presidency one evening. And they came in, I let them in, I had no problem with that. And the stake counselor looked at the pictures of Stephanie and I, my genealogical shield, I can't remember what it's called, the family crest, there it is, that I had on the walls. And he said, "Oh, I see the pictures that you have. I can feel the Spirit in the apartment." He was trying to psychologically manipulate me through the religion of spiritual witness, feeling idol worship. And I did not fall for it, and they had to leave disappointed with their failed stake experiment. I knew what they were up to. Because our stake, and it could have been a church-wide thing, but at least our stake, monthly, or every 3 months, or whatever it was, the stake high council would go out and minister. This was before the minute. Was it before the minute? Yeah, it was before the ministry, I think. Because, yeah, it was. Before Nelson did away with home teaching, because this was in 2018, before Nelson took office in that April conference. And so it may have just been our stake that was running the experiment of the pre-mission ministering program. And they would go with different ward leaders, thus the ward mission leader, and go visit people within the boundaries of the wards. And so this one particular time I was chosen because I had fallen away. It was the bishop who chased me out. And yet, when we were talking, I was the one getting blamed. They never watched my channel. They had no clue what my videos talked about. They were just told by the Strengthening Church Members Committee that I was going against the prophets. It's the prophets who are going against the word. They are the ones in the wrong. The Book of Mormon is established as true, as I just went over with you. So, Christians are the ones who are the most common people to receive the Book of Mormon from missionaries. And so when Mormons tell them that it's another testament of Jesus Christ, that they're Christian, that the name of the church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Christians who have no knowledge of Mormonism are the most susceptible into believing that, oh, okay, sure, I'll listen to what you have to say about Jesus. I'll listen to what you have to say. Oh, the Book of Mormon, huh? Okay, well, it's not the Bible. Oh, but it plagiarizes the Bible? Oh, okay. I'll give it a try. And so a Christian asked to get the spiritual witness feelings only about the Book of Mormon being true. And you showed them when Jesus came to the Native American Indians. Which has already been established as not true. Nevertheless, missionaries are little kids who don't know about these heathens using science on the Book of Mormon. And so a Christian. And they would come across and see, yea, I make a record in the language of my father, which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. Christians already are starting to feel uncomfortable. And they keep going. Lehi has his visions, his first and second visions. Hint, hint. And then they see that Lehi is trying to talk about the destruction of Jerusalem, and prophesy and declare unto them what he had seen and heard in the Book of Mormon, the book, and testified to them that they were wicked, and the Jews mocked him, and that the book manifested plainly of the coming of a Messiah, Christians don't know that word. That's not Christ. So very uncomfortable. And so then they get to chapter 11, and they get to the part about the condescending Jesus. Nephi is shown in his vision. He wants to know the interpretation of his father's tree of life vision. And the angel said unto him, Look. And Nephi looks, as if to look upon him, and he sees him not. He's gone. Came to pass that Nephi looked, and beheld the great city of Jerusalem, also other cities, and he beheld the city of Luxor in Egypt, and the city of Luxor of Egypt he beheld a virgin, and she was exceedingly fair and white. Yeah, how do we do with Christians from Africa about this? And it came to pass that he sees the heavens open, and an angel came down and stood before him, and said unto Nephi, What beholdest thou? And I said unto him, A virgin, most beautiful and fair above all other handmaids. And he said unto me, Knowest thou the condescending Jesus? He said unto him, I know that he loveth his children, nevertheless I do not know the meaning of all things. He said, Behold, the virgin whom thou seest is the mother of the Son of God. And so a Christian is putting Mary in here, even though Mary is the Egyptian word for love. Behold, my son of Mary, in whom I am well pleased. Egyptian, after the manner of the flesh, for fantasy. And it came to pass, I was carried away in the Spirit, and after she had been carried away in the Spirit for the space of a time, the angel spake unto me, saying, Look. And I looked, and behold, the virgin again, bearing the child in her arms. The angel said unto me, Behold, the Lamb. She gave birth to a lamb. Literal word of the Book of Mormon, just like the literal word of the Bible. Yea, even the Son of the Eternal Father. Knowest thou the meaning of the tree which thy father saw? It is the love of God. And so Expo Nevermos were naughty and looked at the original 1830 Book of Mormon and saw that the mother of the Son of God did not have God, or did not have Son. And so originally in the 1830 Book of Mormon, the virgin whom thou seest is the mother of God. And so Christianized believers think that Joseph Smith was altering his religion, changing it from original Christian into the abomination that it became. Yeah, there's these subtle differences in words. Also, when Lehi's vision, he talks about having his family come to him. Whereas the revised Book of Mormon put in, and partake of the fruit of the tree. When you understand the symbolism, you understand that Lehi is the tree. He's the Christ. But when you alter the words, when you add in or take away words, you get a completely different meaning. This is why Joseph Smith did not have alternate edited Book of Mormons. It was Brigham Young who was doing them. But, like all other things, everybody believes that Joseph Smith gave Brigham Young temple authority as the mission president. So that Brigham Young created the underwear, and Joseph Smith was murdered because he didn't have his underwear on. Nobody thinks. You just stop with your spiritual witness feelings, and then you look stupid to people who actually run the test. Okay, so a Christian sees this, and they're thinking Trinity Jesus. But there's some problems here. This is not the Jesus of Christianity. This is the Mormonized Christian Jesus that has a body of flesh and bones, as tangible as man, separate and distinct from his Father. This is what little missionaries do not understand. Now at 5, dear God. See, the enemy doesn't want my words to be made available for you. Apparently they were forced to work this morning on New Year's. Mormons are not smart enough to catch on that a Christian reading the Book of Mormon will read it as a Christian, that they will use their Christian goggles on it. But Mormons use their Mormon Christian goggles on the Book of Mormon. And it's all spiritual witness feelings. And so if a Christian were to read this and get the spiritual witness feeling that it is true, it's their Christian feelings. It is not the Mormon feelings of Christianity. Mormons are incapable of understanding this when they go out on missions as little kids. And so there are other places in the Book of Mormon that are uncomfortable. This is why it's so appalling that for the Doctrine and Covenants year, that the manual has removed all scripture words of the true Mormon Christ of Joseph Smith. I did the video. If you didn't see the video, understand that I'm talking about videos that you haven't seen. It's called referencing. I've got now 8.3K videos on YouTube as of yesterday. And so this is a conundrum that the leaders of the church have enforced with their lies and deception upon Mormons, and thus the consequences are following, as you have people who actually run the scientific tests on the Book of Mormon and know that the prophets are lying, and you have Mormons who are indoctrinated as zombies to believe that Their feelings are established truth, and you've got Mormons who then go and enforce their truth upon others, even other Mormons, to force others to obey them and their will for them, taking away agency, which is Lucifer's plan of happiness. That's exclusive Mormon doctrine, not Christian doctrine. Handmaid's Tale Christians don't understand that when you enforce your Jesus upon other people, it's actually Lucifer. Because that's exclusive Mormonism. Mormon words. We haven't even run the experiment of an Islamic reading the Book of Mormon, or a Jew. Avraham Gileadi wanted to learn about Jews and did. And so when he was in the library in Jerusalem, he was shown the Book of Mormon. And he read it and wanted to be a part of the church. Got baptized in the pool of Shalom as a symbolism. And then came to America, was put to work at BYU, married a Mormon girl, had a Mormon family, had all the pictures on the walls, was teaching other Mormons, but because he knows about the learning of the Jews, he comes across the words of Joseph Smith, the Book of Mormon, talking about Emmanuel, the man like Moses, the one mighty and strong, the Jewish Christ. And he starts publishing a book about it. And the Strengthening Church Members Committee said, nope. And he's fired and excommunicated as a faithful, devout Mormon. But he tried to merge two different words together as one. He ran the test, but didn't produce the results to say, no, it's got to be the Jewish Christ or Jesus. And so he's got to run the test for both. And with Jesus, you have Christian interpretation or Mormon Christian interpretation. So did a dove rape Mary? Or did Mary's father from outer space rape her? That is the choice if you're going to only run the Christian test. The Jewish test means this is all prophecy and revelation. This is not literal history. Mormons do not get this. And so when Christians join the church and then begin to learn more about what Mormonism is not Christian, temple worship, Mother in heaven, not just Mother Mary, Christians start to get uncomfortable. And so, yes, the more I learn about the Jewish religion of the Book of Mormon, the more I'm pissed with the church for the Rincon family. The only baptisms that I helped with. They were a new married couple with a little baby girl, Seychelles. And Stratford and I gave them the full missionary discussions. They were looking for a religion for their daughter to be born into, so that she can grow up to be a good religious person. And missionaries happened to bump into them and tried to steal them from us as they were poaching in our district. Ames. And so Stratford found out, and Ames was forced to hand them over to us. And so, yeah, the discussions do not fully encapsulate the entirety of Mormonism. And for their baptism, Stratford had bought them a triple, or at least a Doctrine and Covenants. I'm not sure if it was also a triple combination, to give them as gift. And Stratford doesn't fully understand what he did by giving them a Doctrine and Covenants also. Because again, you have to run the test on the Doctrine and Covenants to test the word to see if it's true. And it has to harmonize with the Book of Mormon. And so for the church to have the church service missionaries making this Doctrine and Covenants manual to remove everything about Joseph Smith's Christ, it takes away from the Book of Mormon as well. See, there are consequences. The church knows the typical Mormon's pattern of practice, that they won't read their scriptures if they have the manual, unless the manual says, read this passage, and ask them a question. And Mormons won't even do that. They only sit in Sunday school and just sit there and vegetate. And certain words get through, other words go in one ear and out the other as they're on their cell phones instead. That is your typical Mormon. They don't do research prior to, and unless they're of the idol worshiping mindset of, oh, I gotta read the Book of Mormon as an idol, they only do that. But they don't, and the church knows, and this is why it's abominable. Church is purposely sabotaging you, Mormons. They're preparing you to ignore the truth of the word. I see it coming, because America is about to fall and become the Handmaid's Tale, but of a far worse degree because of the known consequences of these tactics that are going to be implemented from Project 2025 and Agenda 47. And nobody is fearing sufficiently for what's coming, because nobody thinks that they know what the consequences would be. Nobody is learning from history. And we're doomed to repeat it. It is going to get ugly. Dear God. Don't know how anybody's going to survive. So, this is what Mormons are being led as lambs to the slaughter for. The Book of Mormon is about the Jewish Christ. Joseph Smith is the founding Jewish Christ who prepared the way for the Mormon Jewish Christ. of the latter days. Ignoring science will only produce negative results. And Mormons should see, as I do, some of the initial Handmaid's Tale society in Utah, of the failures of our legislature that are completely dense, not wanting to follow the Book of Mormon when they are Mormons. They are ordered by the church to make the laws they do, and they ignore the consequences. They don't blame themselves for making the laws that are causing the problems. They blame we, the citizens, for the problems, just like in the show. It's just a nightmare scenario. I saw this working for the church. They were wanting to put in a conveyor belt system. They had little college kids come in and study the rats in the cage, having their cheese moved by the church. And the supervisor told me that they were looking to put in a conveyor system, and I told him, don't do it for the pick line. It will not work. We have individual papers because stakes and wards don't have a printer to print them out instead. And they don't want a whole package when they only need one paper. And so they don't want to be a storehouse of stuff. And they have a ward budget and a stake budget that if they have all this stuff that they don't use, it's wasting the money. And the church is Scrooge when it comes to funding the stakes and wards. And so thus why Nelson did away with many of the cultural traditions of stakes and ward activities, so that the church can withhold funding to the stakes and wards. If you're not going to do road shows, then you don't need the money for the road shows. So yes, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that are going on that is destroying this church, that the typical Mormon is unaware of the bigger picture for. Nelson's doing a lot more damage than Mormons realize. And so they chose not to listen to me, and they put in the conveyor belt for the pick lines and the storage bins, and the church lost over $1 million that first year. The company, who was run by the brother of some employee at the church, blamed the order processors for their incompetence on working their system, and then said, "Yeah, they just need practice. Go another year, and eventually, depending on their competency, you'll start to see how it will make you money, save you money." As the church had to pay them anyway. Oh my God. So no. It's just, oh my hell, nightmare scenario. The church, because they love to hoard money, are not maximizing the potential yield of assets that they could be making. Disney makes this fault, and other big companies, Amazon, Walmart, they make multi-billions of dollars, so they just don't think of how to make more money other than to screw people over. Their greed blinds them to the ways to maximize profits. Stupid. And so for the church, because of their multi-trillions of dollars, they're blinded to the idea of doing merchandising. The church won't do it. That's why you'll only have the pictures of the profits available. Beyond that, no action figures, no pop-up books, and other stuff. Because even Disney knows you gotta merchandise. You come out with a new movie, you've gotta come out with the t-shirts and the dolls and coloring books, all this stuff, because the little kids will want it and demand their parents give it to them. Disney knows this, and yet Disney still screws over the people and loses out on multi-billions of dollars in the process. When you get so rich and powerful, you get dumb, and thus you run the risk of collapsing your business. Right, Blockbuster? I was working for Blockbuster and saw the fall of Blockbuster. I knew how it happened, and it was algorithms. Right, YouTube? They think they know better. They enforce their will upon creators and upon viewers, and they don't realize the consequences. All words have consequences. And people are unwilling to discard false words. When people are in a position of power over others, they enforce false words upon them, and then blame the people when the consequences happen, rather than them who gave the word. Likewise with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I told you they were removing Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. Nobody wanted to believe. Nobody wanted to believe.